Welcome to the Extraordinary Achievers. And on today's show, we have Amanda Bedzrah. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Today, Amanda is going to be telling us about her journey. Who is Amanda? And where she's at now, and where Amanda will be next. Amanda, please tell our viewers, who is Amanda?
Well, what can I say? An ordinary girl, wife to Francois, mother of 3 beautiful children. I've got 2 boys and a girl. I've taken some time off work to start a non-profit organization, which I'm sure we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just one of those people that have got such a massive heart for women, and that's sort of my focus right now, just working with vulnerable women who've been through domestic abuse, sexual abuse, that kind of thing. So that's my passion as a person. My background, I came to the UK in 2001 to complete my university degree. Mm-hmm. So I went to University of Wolverhampton and I did a law degree. Didn't really use it, but I did it.
You acquired it.
I acquired it. It was one of those things where my dad said to me, if you're coming abroad to school, you have to do a professional course. Mm-hmm. You can't just come and say you want to do business or maths or something. It has to be law, it has to be medicine, it has to be, something professional. So I chose law. And anyway, I was doing law in Nigeria before I came, so it just seemed like a natural progression. Mm-hmm. I came and I did that, and I got married in my last year of university. I settled down, did some work here and there, and just sort of felt like everything I'd been doing wasn't really what I wanted to do. I did try to do the law thing, like everybody else, applied for a training contract, proved very difficult to get, but ended up working in Ladbrokes Legal for a few months and did some project management work there. And then eventually I went on to get my Prince 2 certification, and that just opened doors for me to start working in the NHS. So I started my own limited company and started consulting. I've done that for a few years now. And then I went on to become certified in business analysis, and then I started doing some work with coaching. Mainly because of the passion I had with women. I wanted to be able to help them in a different way, but not like a counselor, not wanting to dig into their past and that kind of thing. I really wanted to look at where they are now and where they need to get to. So it was all about setting goals. It was all about what you want to do with your life moving forward, not ignoring the things that happened in the past, but where do we go from here kind of thing. And coaching seemed to be the right environment for me. So I started doing a diploma in personal performance coaching, which I'm still working through at the moment, and that's been great. What else can I say about myself?
That you're amazing and extraordinary, not ordinary. You started off Empower a Woman.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Empower. What was the inspiration behind Empower a Woman?
So, Empower a Woman is, oh my gosh, where do I even start from? It's something that's really close to my heart. It's something that I started off last year. Even though it's a journey that I've been carrying on for at least 4 to 5 years. Like I said, I've always had this passion for working with women. And my inspiration came from my own personal testimony, being in a place where I just didn't have anything. I didn't have any money, we're married, we're both working, but we're really struggling. And we went through a rough patch in our marriage,
like everyone
does, yeah, like most people do.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I felt more imprisoned because I couldn't make any choices. I was so limited financially. It wasn't like I wanted to have the money to say, okay, fine, I'm going to walk out of my marriage. But just being in that place where you know that you're so dependent on somebody else, or you're so dependent on another person's income, it made me feel like, oh, where do I go from here? It's almost like, how women stay in domestic violence because they don't have the opportunity to step out of it. They don't have a voice. They haven't got a choice. And I found myself in a similar situation, and I thought, this can't be right. But the truth is, the seed was planted in about 2001. I listened to this song, and it's a song about domestic violence. It's by Savage Garden. It's called Two Beds and a Coffee Machine. And there's a line in the song that talks about their groceries to buy, and she knows she has to go home. And I thought, what's she going back home to? She's going back to this abusive relationship. She's going back to her kids being beaten and her being shouted out. Because she has to buy food. So where do we get to the point where women are so limited that they then end up making the wrong choices because they can't afford to make the right choices? And so that's where the seeds started, being planted. And I thought, you know what? Every woman should have the right to a second income. A first income for some, for some women, because women tend to stay at home and be the one to look after the kids. But maybe if you had like a small business that you're doing, whether it was selling books, whether it was Avon or Mary Kay or something like that, it gives you a bit of extra income, and then you don't have to rely on your husband or your partner for everything. So that's really where the inspiration and the motivation came from. It's just about giving women that choice, equipping them to find out who they are as people, get that self-esteem and that self-worth and all those things that a life of abuse or trauma or any kind of, when you're in a vulnerable situation, the first thing that goes is your self-worth. The next thing that goes is your self-esteem. You start feeling, oh, I'm useless, I can't do anything for myself, I'm this person, I'm that person, and then you forget who you are. So one of the things that I had in my heart to empower other women is that thing about your identity, that you're a valuable woman, that you're precious and you're loved and you mean something and you've got something to give, something that only you can give. There's something in every woman that nobody else can give apart from that woman. So put that all together, as well as going through my own journey of healing and restoration, because I've come through a childhood of sexual abuse as well. I had to go through my own healing and restoration. And then I thought, okay, what now? What's my purpose? What's my passion? What have I learned out of this experience? What can I do to ensure that women are not in the same situation that I was before? Because it was such a horrible place to be in. And that's how Empower Woman was born, really. So I've said too many things, but yeah.
No, absolutely fantastic. There's so many other people that need to hear it. Because when you have been, in my personal experience, when you have been abused as a child and you come from sexual abuse and you've come through from trying to re-find yourself, and also when you then get into a relationship and then you get into a violent relationship, or you are in circumstances that you cannot be in control of, it sort of changes your DNA, I say. It changes a little bit of who you are. So there's a whole new learning about your inner self and who you really are in the inside, and wanting to bring that out into the outside to make you as an individual. So it's a great thing that at least now you've recognized that you also can play a part in others and be assisting others to get through it. How did you get through being abused and everything else that you had been through yourself?
I can't say it's anything else but God. I have to be honest and say I was 100% totally reliant on God. It had to be God. It couldn't be anything else.
Absolutely.
My abuse was so traumatic for me that I didn't remember till I was 28. So I've lived all my life just going about making such terrible choices, going through all the effects of abuse without even knowing that that was the basis for what I had been doing, the life I had lived. And so I wake up one morning, I'm 28, and I remember this, I start to get flashbacks and I start to get images and all those things start to, and I'm like, what's going on? What is all of this? So it really took me by surprise, because if I had remembered when I was a whole lot younger, I would have had time to process the information, I would have had time to deal with it. But to remember as an adult, it was just one of those things that it just literally tore me apart, literally broke me up from the inside out. I was already married at the time, already had 2 kids at the time, so of course my marriage was dysfunctional because I was dysfunctional. And when you're in that place, when you're an unknown victim, it's so much easier to blame everybody else without wanting to look inwards. Because mind you, you're broken, so the whole world is broken. That's your world, that's your perspective, that's your world.
You live in some sort of confusion.
Absolutely.
And you're comfortable in that confusion.
In that confusion. And it almost becomes like an emotional disability. It becomes like a crutch that you hold on to. And for a while, it became an excuse. So it became one of those things where, oh, this happened to me, so please, be gentle with me. This happened to me, so I can't do this. This happened to me, so I can't do that.
You've got excuses for everything.
I've got excuses for everything, and I used that excuse for a while. But God wasn't finished with me yet. He wanted to bring me to a place of wholeness, whereas I was praying for Him to change my circumstances. I was saying, oh, why am I so broke? Oh, why am I fighting with my husband all the time? Oh, why can't I tolerate my kids? All of this. But God wanted to change me as a person, not necessarily my circumstances, because it was more important for me to change, because otherwise I would have just moved from one situation
to
another situation, and there wouldn't have been any healing there. So one of the first things that happened was I was fortunate to meet a pastor's wife, who by chance I met in a petrol station one day. Actually, it was my mom that went and had this conversation with her, and I started going to her women's ministry and started rediscovering God and come out from the religious mindset and going into the relationship mindset, and that was how the journey started. And it was a long journey. It wasn't like an overnight, all of a sudden I'm this new person, because what God did for me was that He healed me from my brokenness, but I had to walk through the process of changing the habits that I had formed out of being in that place in the first place. So all the drinking, the smoking, and all those things that come with you wanting to be in that place where you don't care about yourself, those were things that I had to work through. So I had to change my character, step by step, process by process. And it's been a long journey. It's still an ongoing journey. It's, I would never say that it's not something that's never going to affect me. It's a scar that's healed, but the scar's always going to be there.
There's always that little reminder.
There's always that reminder.
But only you deal with it in a better way.
Absolutely. But for me, if I can get to the place where I am now, I never thought I could, then there's hope for anybody else, because I was an absolute mess. But now, I can sit here and say I want to empower the women, I want to do this and I want to do that, because I know that it's possible. Yes. I know that it's a journey that I started and I got to the other side successfully. And if I can do it, honestly, anybody else can.
And in most cases, Amanda, we always hear, and as us ladies, we always talk, and we always blame the men in any relationship, in most times, and we never really take a look at ourselves as well in terms of what we can give and how we can change things. And I think your testimony is one of those that teaches other women too, that if there is a problem in the relationship, it's not necessarily maybe just the man that we can talk about, but we have to look at ourselves too.
Right? The truth is, if you're a broken person, whether it's childhood sexual abuse, whether it's rejection, whether it's you've been orphaned as a child, whether there are a million and one things that could have happened to you as a child that doesn't just go away. It starts to form the person you become as an adult.
That defense mechanism.
Exactly. But the thing is, there's like an invisible shield around you, there's an aura about you, and you then start to attract people that are going to treat you the way that you think about yourself. So unknowingly, you enter into relationships that you think you deserve. And I'm not saying that every woman that finds themselves in an abusive relationship has called that upon herself. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that in my personal experience, I've found that a broken person sometimes needs to fix themselves before they can understand what's going on with somebody else. So if you find yourself in a relationship, like I found myself in a relationship where I was clashing a lot with my husband, and I'm not saying he didn't have his own issues, and I'm not saying that he didn't have his own parts to play, but I'm saying that I allowed him to treat me the way I felt about myself. And our relationship changed because I changed, because I started to see myself differently, because I started to treat myself differently. Nobody is going to love you more than you love yourself.
That's right.
And if you think you're a doormat for people to walk over, guess what? They'll walk over you. But if you can stand up and say, don't speak to me like that, don't treat me like that, I don't deserve that, and you know that, then it becomes harder for people to treat you in that manner. And that's what I had to learn. So yes, there's some relationships where the men are just not very nice people, and they will break you down with their words. But there's some relationships where the woman has exactly, because you tolerate it. Why should a man talk down to you. He should talk at you.
That's right.
Why should he talk down to you? And why should you accept it?
Mm-hmm.
When we think about domestic violence, it always starts with verbal abuse first.
Yes.
He'll start to say something to you. He'll start to treat you in a manner. And then you accept it. And one day he will hit you.
That's right.
Because he's broken you down. But from the first moment he says, shut up and get out of here. And you look at me like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
It sort of nips it in the bud. Exactly. But that can only come out of a woman who knows who she is.
That's right.
As a person.
That's right.
You know, I used to feel like you could say anything to me, you know, I'm stupid anyway. So I could take it. And I took it for so many years. So
yeah. And welcome to the new Amanda. Reading on the website says, empower women. If you are successful, it is because somewhere, sometime, someone gave you a life or an idea that started you in the right direction.
yeah.
Remember also that you are indebted to life until you help someone less fortunate as you. Love that.
That's a quote by Melinda Gates,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that always gets me because it's so true.
Yes.
I think I know that we've come to the point where us as women, we need to start supporting each other.
Yes.
We need to start not only supporting each other, but we need to start telling our stories. We need to come out of this bubble where we pretend like everything's okay, and we walk about in hurt and silence because we feel like we're ashamed to be honest and we're ashamed to be vulnerable. One of the things that I've started saying to people is, I'm not ever going to be ashamed to be vulnerable if it will inspire another woman.
That's right.
For me to sit here, it's not because I want to tell my personal life to the whole world, but there's someone out there that needs to hear the testimonies.
Right.
There's a woman out there that needs to know that I'm going through this,
Yes.
but I am going to be okay.
That's right.
If she can do it, then I can do it too.
Exactly.
And a lot of us as women, especially African women, we like to give off this persona of, oh, my husband's the best, oh, my husband did this, and oh, my husband did that, and behind closed doors he's beating you black and blue. But nobody wants to come out and talk about it because there's this stigma that's attached to it. It's the same thing with sexual abuse. There are lots of people walking about that have been abused as children.
And they're walking as damaged people and damaging
Walking as
others.
damaged goods, but
Damaging
they don't
others,
want
yeah.
to talk about it because they think the shame is theirs.
Yes.
They think, have I done, maybe people will say, oh, I did something to deserve it. It's the same thing like being raped, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's
Oh,
right.
you're wearing this short skirt, you had all this makeup on, that's why this happened to you, you deserved it, you called it upon yourself. But all those are just lies.
That's right.
And that's what gives it the power, the silence. Nobody's talking about these things, and that's why it's continued.
Exactly. I think in terms of in our black community, we really need to face the fact that there has been childhood abuses in some cases,
Yes.
in some people's lives, and it's only when they can actually talk about it and get through it and get over it that they can actually live a fulfilled life. And thank you for mentioning that, because that is something that a lot of other people out there need to hear too.
Absolutely.
It's something I've been saying for a very long time. Once we can come together and say, do you know what, yes, this happened to me, yes, this happened to that person, but yes, there's another tomorrow.
Absolutely.
They can get through it,
Yeah.
so they can live a better fulfilled life. So where is Empower Women at now, and where are we going to next?
Wow, so it's it's going to be an incredible journey, because the three things that we want to do in Empower Women is to equip, enable, and then empower. It's almost like a 3-step process, or 2 steps if you like, to get into be an empowered woman. And the first step is the equipping. And so we're committed to running the Shine course. It's Shine Women. It's a course for self-confidence, self-worth, self-esteem. It just builds you up as a woman, which has to be the foundation for anything else to be built up on. When I started the organization last year, I put my hands up and say I made a bit of a mistake in rushing to help women start up businesses and get them into school and all of that. And the women that I sponsored haven't done very well. And in hindsight, I had to go back to God, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I have that relationship with God, and I have to go back to Him and say, okay, what am I not doing right?
Yeah.
And I had to go back to God, and I prayed about it. And He said, look, at the end of the day, you can't build a house without a solid foundation. And if a woman doesn't know who she is as a person, she can't successfully start a business. She can't go back into full-time education. She can't fit nicely into the workplace, because if she's still broken on the inside, or if she's still got some issues that are going on the inside, then it's not going to do much on the outside.
It's going to suffer sooner or later.
Absolutely. So going back a step, we're really focused on equipping and just running the Shine course. So we want to get as many women as possible to get on the Shine course. It's a 9-week course, and it's absolutely brilliant. It does amazing things for you. It's the 3 things that you focus on is your worth, your strength, and your purpose. And you're thinking about your worth. Who are you as a woman? Who are you as a person? I'm valuable. I'm wonderfully made. And then you start to think about your strengths. What do you have that's inside of you? And then you think about your purpose. What am I put on this earth to do? Because there's nothing as damaging as being in a place where you're not even supposed to be. You're in this dead-end job. You don't have any joy out of it. You start a business. Are you an entrepreneurial person, or do you even want to just work for somebody else, or do you want to just go back to school? All these are questions that would come out of knowing who you are.
That's right.
Understanding your identity, and then you can then start to say, okay, fine, this is what I want to do out of life. So that's all we're doing for this year. We're going to be running the Shine course, and then we'll take it from there. So the women that come through the Shine course, then we'll start to talk to them about enabling them. Some women might need to be enabled because they've got little or no income. Some women are just going to be able to run with it themselves. So it just
So, but the main focus of Empowering Women is just to get that woman through that self-healing process and finding themselves in a particular sense. Is that correct?
Yes, you can say that. I wouldn't say get them through that self-healing process, because we're not trained counselors. We're not going to be working with women in detail to start talking about things that have got to do with their past. It's more for women who've already been through that stage. So whether we're working with women that have gone through domestic violence, so they might have been through the Freedom Program, or they might have done other things that have brought them to that place where they're like, okay, what now? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? I've come out of this abusive relationship, or I've dealt with some issues from my past, or I've only started dealing with some issues from my past, but I want to know, what am I going to do with the rest of my future? But they're vulnerable in some way, in that they haven't got any income, or they've got some income, they just don't have any support. So it's more about the support and the mentorship, but then the equipping. I can't stress how wonderful the Shine Women course is. Just giving them that, and then we can, where do we go from there? Get to that place of, being complete in yourself, and then you can then start to say. So, in answering your question, the focus of Empower Woman is to just get a woman to the place where she feels like she knows who she is, and she feels like she's got a choice. One of the things that God gave us as human beings is our free will, and it's one of the things that you can't take away from anybody.
That's right.
And a lot of people have lost the power of their choice because of circumstances, and we want to be able to give that back to a woman. We want a woman to say, I decided to do this because that was what I wanted to do, and not because of my circumstances.
Fantastic. What's your most favorite pastime? When Amanda is not empowering other women,
how do I spend time? Do you know what? I live in my head. I live in my head. I can be a movie in my head. I entertain myself up here. I've got a very active and creative mind, so I entertain myself. I can just sit here for hours and just start thinking about different scenarios, and so which is why if you look on the Empower Woman website, we're very big on what are your dreams. I dream a lot. Where do you want to get to? And I think for you to get anywhere, you have to dream it. You have to see it. If you can't see it, you can't achieve it. So my favorite pastime is dreaming. I spend my time dreaming all sorts of dreams.
I echo you on that one. I always say when I'm really stressed out, I lie down and just imagine some fantasy world.
Absolutely.
And it gets me through to the next bit that I need to get to and back to reality. Thank you very much, Amanda, for being here today. And please do tell our viewers if they would like to get hold of you, and if they would like to be empowered, enabled, someone to hold up their hand, how do they contact you?
So the easiest thing to do is just send an email to hello@empowerwoman.org. We'll pick up the emails within 24 hours, or you can join us on social media, like the Facebook page and just keep in touch with us that way. Or there's a number that you can call. I don't know the number offhand. It
will come up on our screen shortly.
So just give us a call, and we're there. We're there for any woman. my heart is to help vulnerable women that have been through some kind of trauma. But it's not to say that it has to be vulnerable, because there are just some women who, they just need that mentorship, they just need that support, they just need someone to talk to. So we'll be there on the other end of the phone, we're there on the other end of an email to just work with any woman that feels like they need an organization like us.
Yeah. They need someone else to hold their
They
hand
need
up.
somebody else to hold, or somebody to just listen to them,
Yeah.
you know.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for being with us here today.
Thank you for
Thank you for
having
your
me.
time. Thank you. Thank you for watching us today. Onwards and upwards, united together, we shall soar to greater heights than that known by mankind. There is no victory without any story. Testimonials are a way to empower and to encourage others. The infinite power, the master of the universe, our creator is God, and through him all things are possible. Thank you for watching today. Please do share with others what you've just watched today. And for more information, please do join us on our Facebook page, The Extraordinary Achievers, or text on 07962 397 453, or simply go to www.extraordinaryachievers.co.uk. Thank you for your time today.